So we have Glambert with us today to talk to us about pronouns, a very interesting topic and one that I certainly learned a lot by coming to Burning Man. So what can you tell us about for a virgin coming in? How do you use pronouns? What are the do's and the don'ts and what should they know?
Yeah, so pronouns, every single person has them, right? So we all have them, we all use them. In in the Burning Man culture, I think you see a lot more diversity in pronoun usage, and you also see a lot more bravery. You have a lot of people who wouldn't typically identify as non-binary or who wouldn't typically use some neo-pronouns. They come into the burn space and all of a sudden they realize that this is not the outside world, and the people here are going to respect you and they're going to put in that extra effort. So I love that question. What do you do? So a lot of people that use pronouns that maybe are not exactly what you might think when you see the person will have some sort of a pronoun pin or a button. This is my pronoun vest. This is one of the gifts that I give at Burning Man. I actually made the original set for Burning Man. I made 120 of them and brought it to the desert. And I try and represent everyone. So I have neo pronouns. I have multiple languages. I have one that says any, all. I have mix. That's this one, which is a gender neutral Mr. or Mrs. There's also mix. And basically, pronouns are pronouns. Everybody has their own that they identify with. My personal pronouns are they and he. I always tell people I don't have preferred pronouns. I just have pronouns. But I do have preferred adjectives, and those are handsome, strong, tall, the use. But so basically, if you're learning somebody's pronouns, if you've never used, for example, they, them, I think that's like entry level, non-binary, this is level one, somebody's pronouns are they, them. What do? You just use it in a sentence. You already know how, some so-and-so left their purse at the party. We should contact them. Like, this is a natural part of our speech. It already exists. So anytime that you want to refer to the person, just use they or them in place of other pronouns that you would typically use. And you just use it the same way that you would use they or them or theirs. If you make a mistake, it's no problem. People that have alternative pronouns, like, they're very used to people misgendering them. They're very used to people messing up. The most important thing to do is to not make it about yourself. This is about the other person. You want to show them respect and you want to make them feel comfortable. So when you notice that you've made a mistake, just immediately correct it and move on. Don't make a big deal out of it. Don't tell your whole life story about how difficult it is for you and how hard you're trying and cite your sources. No, none of that. We hate that. It's embarrassing. It changes the focus. Just, oh, you used the wrong pronoun. Just correct it, move on. If somebody else corrects you, accept that correction. Thank you. Correct it yourself. They just took off to go to the bar or go to the mint, whatever. And that's it. If you're unsure of somebody's pronouns, you can always omit them. You don't have to use pronouns. You could say that human over there with the curly hair and the foxtail on, right? You can say their name in place of pronouns if you're not sure. And you can always ask. If you want to be a good ally, even if your pronouns are what you think most people will think of when they see you, you could say, hey, my name is so-and-so, and my pronouns are she, her, he, him, whatever they are. And then that's an invitation for the other people to share their pronouns as well.
Yeah, I love that suggestion. And one of the things that I know I struggled with at first with they, them was that I'm a writer and I know English. And so it was really hard for me to break in my brain the tendency to go singular. But someone said to me, and they said, just imagine what happens when you don't know someone's pronouns. What do? You naturally default to they and them. So I guess this is a question for you. Is it okay to default to they and them if you don't know someone's pronouns, or is it better to ask the question?
That's a great question. I can't give a definitive answer. I know for me, I like to default to they and them if I don't know, but I know that there are some people, especially people who are in the trans community, trans masc individuals, trans femme individuals, people who are putting a lot of effort, kind of trying to be more in the binary, in the opposite of how they were assigned at birth. Some of those people get very offended if they hear you using they or them instead of she, her, or they, them instead of he, him, because it's like, damn it, I just put in all this effort, blah, 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 blah. So and it is, that's a topic that's kind of debated within our community of what is accurate. But I think ultimately, for me, my rule is anything that's delivered with respect is acceptable, right? If there's no malice that I can detect, if you're not saying things in a condescending way, I'm okay with it. Even if you're using, she, her, or it's. For me, I hate it's. I don't personally, I don't, I'm a human. So, yeah.
So what, just for someone who's coming in that's brand new, what are the array of pronouns that are the options? Because maybe someone's coming in and this is the first time they've thought about their own pronouns. And I want to figure out what my own, like you had this experience, someone asked you and you didn't know what your pronouns are. I'm getting asked what my pronouns are. What do I have to choose from?
Well, you can always go to the default, like, oh, nobody's ever asked me that before, but everybody uses she, her for me, right? I actually recently found my pronouns. I've been I've been on a mission to bend gender till it breaks since 2019. And so that's like 4 years now, solidly into it, just finished top surgery, like doing the hit thing. I'm on hormones. And it wasn't until I was in someone's Etsy shop, I found these really cool moth stickers, and the moths were all these colors of the different pride flags, right? And in this woman's shop, she happened to have all of these pronoun choices. And typically what you see is she, her, he, him, they, them, sometimes she, they, sometimes he, they, sometimes ze, zim, or fey, fair. Those are kind of neo pronouns, right? But this human had they and he in that order. And I had never really identified with any set of pronouns before. And I saw that. And I always say representation matters. Because as soon as I saw that, I said, damn it, that's me. And personally, I think it's really important for me to lead with my non-binary identity as I go forward. If I start growing facial hair and my voice drops with the hormones, I don't want people to think I'm a cis man. I really want them to default to they, them, because I'm a non-binary creature, right? And then also he, because I don't want people to use she, her for me ever. But that's my preference. So that's why I put they first in the they and the he, because I would prefer it if people use them in this order for me, right? But yeah, I couldn't even give you an exhaustive list because people are creating new ones all the time. There's a whole list of neo pronouns. If you're interested, you can look it up. I would say the most common of the neo pronouns, like I mentioned earlier, are they, them, and ze, zim. Ze, zim has actually been around since, I want to say, the 40s, and it was the original non-binary pronouns before people were using they, them in the singular.
Oh, interesting. Well, I've seen this coming even into the default world. Now we're seeing people on their LinkedIn profiles, on their Zoom meetings. Now they're using their pronouns. And I remember I had this situation where I had somebody that was applying for a job that used they, them, and trying to explain in work, like, you have to use the correct pronouns. And I got a little pushback from my boss. And I was like, look, this is the real world. Like, you can't, especially as a white man, come in and not use someone's pronouns correctly. You have to change this with yourself. And I changed my own pronouns to she, they at that point, because I felt like it was important to just provide that permission slip that, you can use they is okay.
Yeah, I love that.
So how does this show up in the default world for you?
Similar. I was just at the Kennedy Center watching a play in DC, and some of the actors had their pronouns as the first thing in their bio. And whenever I see that in an email signature, in a bio, whenever I see, even if it's a cis person that's just like, hey, my pronouns are exactly what you think they'll be, that tells me that human is safe. That tells me that that person is an ally. That tells me that that person isn't going to hate crime me.
Right.
Yeah. That tells me
Yeah.
that that person is going to give me the respect that I deserve and recognize me as my non-binary identity, which should be the default, but unfortunately in this day and age, it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. As for all of our virgins out there that are trying to consider what your pronouns are, come into the burn and use your pronouns maybe for the first time, and know that you're going to be accepted, you're going to be loved, you're going to be cherished. The community will absolutely support you in being your best self.
Absolutely. And, you know, if you're curious, you can always try something out. Your pronouns can change every single day. There are some people who are fluid and change them, and you can change your pronouns at any time. So just enjoy that freedom.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Glambert. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.